The more secure your retirement looks on paper, the faster the modern system is actually devaluing your labor. It is the great American paradox of 2026. You spent 40 years following every rule, you maximized the 401k, you avoided high-interest debt, and you hit that legendary $1 million milestone. Yet, as you sit at your kitchen table tonight, the math isn't just tight, it's terrifying. Why does a 7-figure nest egg suddenly feel like a safety net made of thin glass? Meet Robert. Robert is 67 years old and lives in a quiet suburb just outside of Indianapolis. 3 years ago, Robert retired from a respectable career in logistics management. He had $1.2 million across his accounts. He had a paid-off mortgage. He was the poster child for the American dream. But lately, Robert hasn't been sleeping. It's 3 a.m., and the blue light of his laptop is the only thing illuminating his living room. He's staring at a spreadsheet that refuses to lie. Despite his safe withdrawal rate, his balance is dropping faster than the projections he received in 2021 ever suggested. Robert represents millions of Americans who are realizing that the old rules of retirement have been quietly rewritten without their consent. In 2026, the primary fear isn't a sudden stock market crash, it's a slow, agonizing erosion of purchasing power that official statistics seem to ignore. According to recent data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the cost of living for seniors, often measured by the CPI, has outpaced general inflation for 3 consecutive years. For Robert, this isn't a statistic. It's the fact that his home insurance premium just jumped 40% in a single year, and his local property taxes were reassessed at a level that effectively added a $400 monthly rent to a home he supposedly owns outright. But that's only part of the story. The real danger isn't what most people think. We've been told for decades that the stock market is the great equalizer. But for someone like Robert, who is already withdrawing funds, the market is a double-edged sword. This is what economists call sequence of returns risk. If the market dips in the first few years of your retirement while you are taking distributions, your portfolio may never recover, even if the market eventually goes back up. In the economic climate of 2026, with interest rates remaining stubbornly high and corporate earnings softening, that risk has moved from a theoretical possibility to a daily reality. Every 90 seconds, another American reaches retirement age and realizes the goalposts have moved. The 4% rule, the golden standard of retirement planning for 30 years, is effectively dead in 2026. Financial researchers now suggest that a 3% or even a 2.5% withdrawal rate is the only way to guarantee your money lasts 30 years. For Robert, that's the difference between a comfortable life and a life of constant deprivation. He's watching his peers go back to work, not because they want to stay active, but because the safe math of 2019 has failed the reality of 2026. And then something changed. Robert noticed that it wasn't just the big expenses. It was the subscriptionization of his entire existence. His car, his software, his home security, and even his healthcare supplements have all shifted to monthly recurring costs that have doubled since he retired. The Federal Reserve's recent reports on household debt show that seniors are the fastest growing demographic for credit card carryover balances. They aren't buying luxury goods, they are charging the gap between their Social Security check and the cost of eggs, electricity, and medicine. The next statistic changes the entire picture. Healthcare is the silent assassin of the American retirement. Fidelity's 2026 estimate suggests a 65-year-old couple retiring today will need approximately $360,000 just to cover out-of-pocket medical expenses throughout retirement. This does not include long-term care. Robert's wife, Sarah, recently had a minor health scare. Even with Medicare, the gap coverage and deductibles drained $5,000 in a single month. That's $5,000 of principal that will never again earn interest. Most people never see this coming because they trust the official narrative. We are told inflation is cooling, but if you look at the items seniors actually consume: healthcare, property services, and fresh food, the prices are structurally higher and show no signs of reverting. This is the safe haven loss. The pillars Robert trusted, his home equity and his 401k, are being taxed and feed to death. But here is where retirement math starts to break. At the 80% mark of our journey, we have to look at the deepest root risk. The ultimate betrayal isn't just inflation, it's the longevity tax. We are living longer, which should be a blessing, but in a 2026 economy, it's a financial curse. The system was designed when people lived 15 years past retirement. Now, they live 30. When you combine 30 years of life with a currency that loses half its value every 20 years, the result is a mathematical certainty of failure for anyone without a dynamic defense strategy. The danger becomes visible when you realize that the government's primary tool for fixing the economy is to devalue the debt by inflating the currency. As a retiree, you are the collateral damage of that policy. Your fixed income stays fixed, while the cost of the world around you stays fluid. Robert realized that he wasn't just spending his money, he was watching it melt. So, what is the defense? How does Robert, and how do you stop the bleeding? It requires a shift from passive investing to active wealth defense. Step 1 is a tactical Roth conversion strategy. In 2026, tax rates are widely expected to rise to cover massive federal deficits. By moving money from a traditional IRA to a Roth now, you lock in current tax rates and create a pool of tax-free income that won't trigger higher Medicare Part B premiums later. Step 2 is the property tax appeal and insurance audit. Robert saved $4,000 a year simply by hiring a professional to appeal his local tax assessment and by shopping his home insurance through an independent broker rather than staying loyal to a brand that was price gouging him. Step 3 is the Social Security delay pivot. If you are under 70, every year you wait to claim Social Security increases your benefit by 8%. In a world where safe investments return 4%, an 8% guaranteed increase from the government is the best investment on the planet. Robert decided to take a part-time consulting gig for 2 years just to allow his Social Security benefit to hit its maximum level, effectively ensuring his floor of income against future inflation. The math gets worse before it gets better, but there is a path through the woods. The real problem isn't that you didn't save enough, it's that the environment your savings live in has become predatory. You have to treat your retirement as a business that requires constant auditing, expense management, and strategic pivots. Robert still sits at his laptop at 3 a.m. sometimes. But now, he isn't just staring at a shrinking balance. He's looking at his defense plan. He's looking at his Roth conversion schedule. He's looking at his downsized budget that prioritizes experiences over stuff. He realized that the anxiety came from the feeling of being a victim of the system. The moment he started taking tactical steps to defend his cash flow, the fear began to subside. The next few years will be a period of intense structural change in the American economy. The gap between those who set and forgot their retirement and those who actively defend it will widen into a canyon. You cannot control the Federal Reserve. You cannot control the global supply chain. You cannot control the tax policy of 2028. But you can control your withdrawal sequence, your tax exposure, and your overhead. We often think of retirement as the finish line. But in 2026, it's actually the start of a new, more dangerous race. It's a race against time, against a devaluing dollar, and against a system that views your savings as a pool of liquidity to be tapped. The fear you feel is your survival instinct telling you that the old maps no longer match the terrain. Listen to that instinct. The goal was never to become rich. The goal was to remain independent. And in a world where everything is becoming more expensive, independence may be the most valuable asset left. It's not about the number on the screen, It's about the freedom to choose how you spend your Tuesday afternoons without checking a stock ticker. It's about knowing that no matter what the official numbers say, your personal economy is fortified. If you found this analysis helpful and want to stay ahead of the structural shifts in the 2026 economy, please subscribe to the channel. We provide deep-dive financial documentaries and wealth defense strategies designed to help you navigate the middle-class collapse and secure your future. Thank you for watching, and stay vigilant. Disclaimer: this is not financial advice. The strategies discussed in this documentary are for educational and entertainment purposes only. Investing involves risk, including the loss of principal. Always consult with a qualified financial advisor or tax professional before making significant investment decisions.